The archives were quiet at this hour. Thalvin preferred it that way. The tall, blue-skinned Velthoran moved between rows of data cores, his forearms carrying various scanning devices. For 300 years he had maintained the Galactic Council's historical records. He knew every file, every classification, every secret buried in the digital vaults. Tonight was different. The error message appeared on his scanner at Oro 300 station time. A corrupted file in the Omega section. Thalvin frowned. Nothing corrupted in Omega. That section contained the Council's most sensitive information, protected by 7 layers of encryption. He accessed the file location and stopped moving. The label made his blood run cold. Apex Archive, Species Classification Level Omega. Thalvin had heard rumors about this archive. Every archivist had. A list of species so dangerous that contact with them meant certain death. Species that had destroyed entire civilizations. Species that the Council feared above all others. He opened the file with trembling hands. 12 entries. Only 12 species in the entire galaxy carried this classification. Thalvin read through them slowly. The void serpents of the Andromeda Rift. The silicon hive from galaxy M87. Ancient species. Powerful species. Species that made veteran warriors whisper prayers. Then he saw the 13th entry. Recent edition. Dated 50 years ago. Species 7 Alpha. Designation, human. Homeworld, Earth. Status, active. Thalvin stared at the screen. This had to be a mistake. Humans? The friendly traders from the Sol system? The ones who brought strange foods and stranger jokes to the galactic hub? Those humans? He saw them every day. Ambassador Doyen worked 3 levels above him. Security Officer Hana patrolled the archives twice per shift. They smiled. They helped other species fix their computers. They shared pictures of their families. These were not apex predators. These were not species to fear. Thalvin dug deeper into the file. The classification was real. Authorized by only 3 counselors in a secret vote. No public record. No official announcement. Just a quiet addition to the most dangerous list in galactic history. One phrase appeared at the bottom of the entry. Survival protocol engaged. Avoid species extinction trigger. Maintain peaceful relations at all costs. What did that mean? What had the humans done? Thalvin spent the next 4 hours searching through classified records. He found nothing. The decision to add humans to the Apex archive was buried under layers of restricted access. Even his high-level clearance couldn't break through. He needed to talk to someone who was there. Someone who had voted. Counselor Vren was old, even by Velthoran standards. The senior council member had served for 400 years. If anyone knew the truth, it would be him. Thalvin sent a secure message and waited. The response came 30 minutes later. Come to my office immediately. Tell no one. The counselor's office was in the highest tower of the station. Thalvin had only been here twice before. Vren stood by the window, looking out at the stars. He didn't turn around when Thalvin entered. You found the file, Vren said. It wasn't a question. Yes, counselor. I don't understand. Why are humans on the Apex list? Vren was silent for a long moment. Then he walked to his desk and pulled up a holographic display. Battle footage. Ships exploding. Stations burning. 50 years ago, the Krillian Empire made first contact with Earth, Vren said quietly. The Krillians were the 3rd most powerful military force in the galaxy. They had conquered 47 worlds. They sent their subjugation fleet to Earth expecting an easy victory. Thalvin watched the footage. He saw massive Krillian warships approaching a small blue planet. He saw primitive human vessels trying to defend their world. He saw the Krillians destroy the human ships easily. It should have ended there. Vren continued. The humans should have surrendered. Every species does when facing the Krillian fleet. But humans didn't. The footage changed. Thalvin saw something he had never seen before. Human ships ramming Krillian vessels at full speed. Human fighters using suicide attacks. Human stations self-destructing to take enemy ships with them. They fought with no regard for their own survival, Vren said. They adapted to Krillian tactics within days. They reverse-engineered captured technology in weeks. They used biological weapons, nuclear weapons, psychological warfare. They did things that violated every rule of civilized combat. Thalvin watched as a human ship, damaged and leaking atmosphere, accelerated directly into a Krillian command carrier. Both ships exploded in a massive fireball. In 6 weeks, humanity destroyed the entire Krillian subjugation fleet. Every ship, Every soldier. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't negotiate. They just kept fighting until every Krillian was dead or running for their lives. Vren closed the hologram. He looked tired. The Krillian War Master sent one final message before his flagship was destroyed. He said, "Do not engage these creatures. They don't fight to win. They fight to ensure you lose everything." Then a human pilot crashed a fighter directly into the bridge. Both died instantly. Thalvin felt cold. But humans seem so peaceful now. They trade with everyone. They help other species. Because we don't threaten them, Vren said. That's what we learned. Humans are peaceful when left alone, but threaten their extinction, threaten their families, and they become something else, something unstoppable. So the Council added them to the Apex archive. We had no choice. 3 of us reviewed all the evidence. We saw what humans are capable of when pushed to the edge. We also saw that they stopped fighting the moment the Krillians retreated. They didn't chase them. They didn't seek revenge. They just wanted to be left alone. Vren pulled up another file. We decided on a new approach. Peaceful contact. Fair trade. Mutual respect. Never, ever threaten Earth. Never give them a reason to activate what they call their survival protocols again. Does humanity know they're on this list? No, and it must stay that way. If they knew we feared them, it might damage the relationship we've built. They think we're friends, and in a way we are, because we're smart enough not to be their enemies. Thalvin looked at the Apex archive file one more time. 13 species too dangerous to engage, 12 ancient monsters from the dark corners of space, and 1 species from a small blue planet who just wanted to survive. This file needs better security, Thalvin said finally. If this information spreads, it could cause panic. Vren nodded. See to it personally. And Thalvin, delete your search history. This conversation never happened. As Thalvin left the office, he passed Security Officer Hana in the hallway. She smiled and waved. He waved back, his hand shaking slightly. She had no idea that somewhere in the archives, her entire species was classified as one of the most dangerous things in the galaxy. And maybe, Thalvin thought that was for the best. Thalvin couldn't sleep. The information about humanity burned in his mind like a hot coal. He returned to the archives despite Vren's warning. He needed to understand what really happened 50 years ago. The deep files required special authorization, but Thalvin had maintained these systems for centuries. He knew how to access restricted battle records without leaving traces. The first document was a Krillian scout report from 2337. Primitive species detected. Radio signals originating from 3rd planet of Yellow Star System. Technology level early space age. Recommendation, standard subjugation protocol. Estimated conquest time, 2 weeks. Simple, clinical. The Krillians had done this dozens of times before. They would arrive, demonstrate overwhelming force, and the primitive species would surrender. Then assimilation. Then another world added to the Krillian Empire. Thalvin pulled up the next file. The arrival of the Krillian fleet at Earth. The fleet was massive. 37 warships, each one capable of destroying a city from orbit. War Master Krinth commanded the operation personally. He had conquered 14 worlds. Earth would be his 15th. The humans sent a small delegation to meet the Krillian flagship. The conversation was recorded. War Master Krinth spoke first. Primitive creatures of Earth. The Krillian Empire claims this world. You have 72 hours to surrender all military assets and submit to our authority. Resistance is futile. Obedience is mandatory. The human representative was a military officer named Jiwan. Her response was calm. We decline. Leave our system immediately. Krinth apparently found this amusing. You have 3 ships. We have 37. You have missiles. We have plasma cannons. You will surrender or we will destroy your military installations and kill 1 million of your people every hour until you comply. G1's response was simple. Then you'll die here. The transmission ended. Krinth ordered the bombardment to begin. Thalvin watched the battle footage with growing horror. The Krillians systematically destroyed Earth's orbital defenses. Human ships tried to fight back but were outmatched completely. Missiles bounced off Krillian shields. Human weapons couldn't penetrate their armor. Within 6 hours, Earth's military seemed broken. Krinth sent another message demanding surrender. Jiwan responded again. You've killed 3,000 of our people. We will kill all of yours. You should have left when you had the chance. What happened next changed galactic history. Human ships stopped fighting conventionally. They began ramming Krillian vessels at full speed. Pilots would accelerate to maximum velocity and crash directly into enemy shields. The shields would hold, but the impacts damaged systems. Dozens of human ships sacrificed themselves this way. One pilot named Minho flew his fighter through the debris field of a destroyed human station. His radio transmission was recorded. "This is for Station Liberty, for Captain Young, for every person you killed." Then his ship disappeared from sensors, only to reappear inside the Krillian formation. He had somehow used the debris to hide his approach. His ship struck a Krillian cruiser's engine section at full speed. The cruiser exploded. Minho died instantly, but it worked. The Krillians realized humans were willing to trade one ship for one of theirs. The exchange rate favored the Krillians, but the psychology didn't. Human pilots weren't afraid to die. Krillian crews were. Within 2 days, humans captured a damaged Krillian frigate. Within a week, they had reverse-engineered the shield technology. Within 2 weeks, human ships had adapted Krillian weapons to their own vessels. The Krillians had never seen anything like it. Most species took decades to understand captured technology. Humans did it in days. Thalvin found a communication from War Master Krinth to the Krillian High Command. Request immediate reinforcements. Human forces are adapting at an unprecedented rate. They show no fear of death. They fight with tactics that violate all accepted rules of warfare. We have lost 7 ships. Morale among crews is declining. These creatures are not civilized. They are survivors. The High Command denied reinforcements. They told Krinth to finish the conquest with existing forces. That was their mistake. Jiwan authorized something called Protocol Scorched Earth. Thalvin found a human military document explaining it. If facing species extinction, all rules are suspended. Use any weapon, accept any cost. Victory is not the goal. Making the enemy regret engaging us is the goal. If we die, we make sure they never forget us. If we survive, we make sure they never return. The humans launched biological weapons at Krillian boarding parties. They used nuclear missiles at close range, damaging their own stations to kill Krillian ships. They sent fake surrender signals and then self-destructed their vessels when Krillian crews boarded them. One station commander, when his station was about to be captured, sent a simple message. "This is Station Harmony to all Krillian vessels. You wanted our home. You can have this piece of it." Then the station's reactor went critical. The explosion destroyed the station and 4 Krillian ships docked nearby. 3,000 humans died. 10,000 Krillians died. The psychological impact was devastating. Krillian soldiers stopped boarding human vessels. They didn't know which ships would explode, which stations were traps, which surrender signals were real. Thalvin found a personal log from a Krillian officer. "These humans are insane. They don't value their own lives. They value taking us with them." Yesterday, a human soldier with both legs blown off dragged himself to our position and detonated explosives. He couldn't walk, but he could still kill. Today, 3 human pilots crashed their damaged fighters into our landing bay. The bay was depressurized. 40 of our soldiers died. What kind of species does this? By week 4, the Krillian fleet was down to 23 ships. They had killed millions of humans, but humans were still fighting, still adapting, still learning. War Master Krinth sent one final message to High Command. "We cannot win this war. Even if we destroy every human military asset, they will fight with their bare hands. They have shown they would rather die than submit. Request permission to withdraw before we lose the entire fleet." High Command refused. Retreat was not the Krillian way. That was when Jiwan made her move. Human forces had been studying Krillian tactics for 6 weeks. They knew the Krillian command structure. They knew War Master Krinth commanded from the flagship Eternal Conquest. 50 human ships attacked the flagship simultaneously. It was a suicide mission. Everyone knew it. No one hesitated. Minho had died weeks earlier, but his tactics lived on. Human pilots used debris fields to hide. They coordinated attacks to overwhelm shields. They sacrificed themselves to create openings for others. Thalvin watched the final battle footage. The Eternal Conquest was the most powerful ship in the Krillian fleet. It destroyed 30 human vessels, but the remaining 20 broke through its shields. They crashed into the hull. They detonated nuclear weapons at point-blank range. War Master Krinth's final transmission was brief. To all species monitoring this battle: "Do not engage the humans. They don't fight to win. They fight to ensure you lose everything. They are not a military force. They are a survival instinct given form. Then a human fighter piloted by an officer named Taehyung crashed directly into the Eternal Conquest's bridge. Both the ship and the fighter exploded. The remaining Krillian ships fled. They left their damaged vessels behind. They left their wounded behind. They just ran. Jiwon sent one message to the retreating fleet. Tell your high command. Tell every species in the galaxy. We didn't want this war, but we finished it. If you leave us alone, we'll leave you alone. If you threaten our home again, we'll make sure you regret it for generations. Thalvin closed the files. His hands were shaking. The humans won. But the cost was horrific. 7 million human casualties. Dozens of stations destroyed. A scarred planet that would take decades to rebuild, but they survived. And they made sure the galaxy would never forget what happened when you pushed humans to extinction. Now Thalvin understood why they were on the Apex Archive. Not because they were violent, because they absolutely refused to surrender, because they would burn everything down rather than accept extinction. That made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called 3 days after the last Krillian ship fled Earth's solar system. Representatives from 48 species gathered in the council chamber. The mood was tense. Councillor Vren stood at the central podium. He was younger then, only 300 years old, but already respected for his careful judgment. Today, he looked troubled. We are here to discuss the Krillian-human conflict, he began. The war ended 6 days ago. The Krillian High Command has submitted a formal complaint against humanity for war crimes. They claim humans used illegal weapons, targeted civilian vessels, and violated every rule of civilized warfare. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Krillians were one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. For them to file a complaint meant something significant had happened. The Krillians demand that the Council sanction humanity. They want trade restrictions, territory limitations, and military observers placed in the Sol system. A Krillian representative stepped forward. His carapace was scratched, his movements stiff. He had clearly been in combat recently. The humans are monsters, he said, his voice harsh. They don't follow the rules of war. They sacrifice their own people without hesitation. They use weapons that should be banned. They need to be controlled before they become a threat to the entire galaxy. Vren nodded slowly. Before we make any decisions, we should review the evidence. High Scholar Nethys has prepared a report on the conflict. Scholar, please present your findings. High Scholar Nethys was a xenobiologist, one of the galaxy's leading experts on species behavior. She was small, reptilian, with golden eyes that missed nothing. She activated the central holodisplay. I have reviewed all available data on the human-Krillian conflict, she began. Battle footage, communications, and biological analysis of human psychology. My findings are disturbing. The holodisplay showed footage of the battle, ships exploding, stations burning, human pilots ramming Krillian vessels at full speed. Humans possess several unique psychological traits, Nethys continued. First, they bond intensely with other members of their species. Attack one human, and you create enemies of all humans. Second, they have an unusually strong survival instinct. They will do anything, sacrifice anything, to ensure their species continues. Third, and most importantly, they have something they call mutually assured destruction thinking. The footage changed to show a human soldier, badly wounded, dragging himself toward a Krillian position with explosives. If humans believe they will die anyway, they focus entirely on taking their enemies with them. This is not anger. This is not revenge. This is cold calculation. If they cannot survive, they ensure you pay the maximum price for killing them. The Krillian representative interrupted. This proves they are dangerous. They must be contained. Nethys turned to him calmly. May I ask, Ambassador, who initiated contact with humanity? The Krillian shifted uncomfortably. We did. Standard subjugation protocol. And what were your initial demands? Unconditional surrender or death. Nethys nodded. So you threatened them with extinction. You gave them a choice between submission or survival. And you are surprised. They chose to fight? Every species surrenders when faced with superior force, the Krillian said. It's logical. It prevents unnecessary death. For most species, yes, but humans are not most species. They evolved on a death world. Their planet tried to kill them for millions of years. Predators, diseases, climate changes, natural disasters. They survived everything. They learned that surrender means extinction, so they never surrender. Vren leaned forward. Scholar Nethys, are you saying humans are naturally violent? No, counselor. I'm saying they are naturally stubborn. Review their history. They fight each other constantly. They have wars, conflicts, disagreements. But when an outside force threatens their entire species, they unify instantly. It's a survival mechanism. Threat from outside equals total unity inside. The holo display showed new footage. Human ships coordinating attacks, human soldiers sharing resources, human civilians helping wounded soldiers. During the Krillian attack, humans demonstrated unprecedented cooperation. Political enemies worked together. Religious groups that normally conflicted shared resources. The entire species focused on one goal: survival. This made them far more dangerous than their technology suggested. A representative from the Telvian Confederation spoke up. What do you recommend, scholar? Nethys paused. If you attack humans, you must be prepared to exterminate them completely. Partial victory is not possible. They will never stop fighting. They will adapt, learn, and return stronger. The Krillians learned this the hard way. The Krillian ambassador looked furious. Are you suggesting we should have killed all of them? I'm suggesting you should never have attacked them at all. And now that you have, you've created a very dangerous situation. Humans know they can defeat a major military power. They know they can survive. And they know the galaxy is watching. Vren stood. Thank you, Scholar Nethys. Now, we have a representative from Earth waiting outside. Ambassador Suman has requested permission to address the Council. I move that we allow her to speak. The motion passed. The chamber doors opened. Ambassador Suman entered the chamber. She was small by human standards, middle-aged, wearing a simple gray uniform. She walked to the central podium without fear or hesitation. Vren gestured for her to speak. Suman looked around the chamber slowly. When she spoke, her voice was calm but carried weight. Members of the Council, I am Ambassador Suman of Earth. I am here to address the Krillian complaint against my people. She activated her own holo display. It showed Earth before the attack. Blue oceans, green continents, orbital stations bustling with activity. This was our home 6 weeks ago, peaceful, developing, reaching toward the stars with hope and curiosity. Then the Krillians arrived. They demanded we surrender everything or they would kill 1 million of us every hour. The display changed to show the destruction. Cities burning, stations destroyed, bodies floating in space. We lost 7 million people. Mothers, children, scientists, artists, people who just wanted to live their lives. The Krillians killed them without mercy because we refused to become slaves. The Krillian ambassador interrupted. You violated the rules of warfare. You used illegal weapons. Suman turned to him slowly. What rules? You didn't offer us terms of warfare. You offered us extinction or slavery. So we chose a third option, survival. She pulled up footage of Krillian ships bombarding civilian areas. You talk about rules while you murdered civilians. You talk about civilization while you demanded our submission. You came to our home with violence and you're surprised we responded with violence. Vren spoke carefully. Ambassador Suman, the Council is concerned about human military capabilities. You defeated one of the galaxy's major powers in 6 weeks. That's unprecedented. Suman nodded. Yes, we won. Do you know why? Because we had to. Because the alternative was extinction. Because when you threaten to kill all of us, we become very motivated to stop you. Some species believe humans should be restricted, Vren continued, monitored, controlled. The chamber went silent. Every representative watched Suman carefully. She smiled. It was not a warm smile. Counselor Vren, let me be very clear. Earth has no desire to conquer other worlds. We have no interest in empire building. We just want to be left alone to develop in peace. But if any species decides to attack us again, we will respond the same way. We will fight with everything we have. We will adapt to your technology. We will study your weaknesses. And we will not stop until you retreat or die. She paused, letting that sink in. You can try to restrict us. You can try to monitor us. You can try to control us. But ask the Krillians how well that worked for them. Or better yet, ask the survivors of the Eternal Conquest. Oh wait, there are none. The flagship was destroyed completely. War Master Krinth died when one of our pilots crashed into his bridge. The Krillian ambassador looked like he wanted to protest but remained silent. Here's what I propose, Suman said. Leave us alone and we'll leave you alone. Trade with us fairly and we'll trade fairly back. Respect our borders and we'll respect yours. It's very simple. Be our friends or be our enemies. The choice is yours. She deactivated the display and walked toward the exit. At the door she stopped and turned back. One more thing. The weapons we used against the Krillians, those were our old weapons. Our desperate weapons. We've spent the last 6 weeks building new ones. Better ones. Based on Krillian technology we captured. If you want to see what we can really do, please feel free to attack us again. Then she left. The chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives wanted sanctions. Others wanted military action. A few suggested opening friendly relations. Vren called for order. When the chamber quieted, he spoke carefully. I move that we add humanity to the Apex archive. Classification level Omega, species too dangerous to engage. The debate lasted 3 hours. Finally, a vote was called. Only 3 counselors were present who had authority to modify the Apex archive. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was added to the list of most dangerous species in the galaxy, but with a special notation. Maintain peaceful relations. Never threaten species extinction. Never give them reason to activate survival protocols. Current status. Potential ally if handled correctly. Thalvin made a mistake. It was a simple mistake. The kind that happens when someone is tired and distracted. He had spent 3 days reviewing classified files about humanity. His mind was full of battle footage, casualty reports, and terrifying demonstrations of human determination. He meant to save his research to a secure personal file. Instead, he accidentally routed it to the station's general communication network. The broadcast lasted 14 seconds before he caught the error. 14 seconds of classified information about humanity's Apex archive status, transmitted to every terminal on the Galactic hub station. Thalvin stared at his screen in horror. 5,000 individuals on the station had just learned that humans were classified as one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Within minutes, his communication panel exploded with incoming messages. His supervisor. Station security, Counselor Vren. Everyone wanted to know what had happened, but the most unexpected message came from Ambassador Doyen. Thalvin, this is Ambassador Doyen. I just received a very interesting file. Could you come to my office? I think we need to talk. Thalvin walked to the human diplomatic section like he was walking to his execution. Security Officer Hana stood outside Doyen's office. She smiled at him like always. Hey Thalvin, the ambassador is waiting for you. Don't look so worried. He's not mad. That somehow made Thalvin more nervous. Doyen's office was small and decorated with pictures from Earth. Oceans, mountains, cities. The ambassador sat behind his desk, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when Thalvin entered. Archivist Thalvin, please sit down. Thalvin sat. He expected anger, accusations, demands for explanation. Doyen put down his tablet and smiled. So my species is on something called the Apex Archive, a list of creatures too dangerous to engage, right next to things called void serpents and silicon hives. And nobody thought to mention this to us for 50 years? Ambassador, I sincerely apologize. That information was classified. The broadcast was an accident. Oh, I know it was an accident. Your panic was pretty obvious. Doyen leaned back in his chair. But now I'm curious. Why are we on this list? What did we do? Thalvin hesitated. The Krillian War. 50 years ago. The Council reviewed what happened and decided that humanity was too dangerous to provoke. We won a defensive war, and that made us monsters. You didn't just win, Ambassador. You terrified one of the galaxy's major military powers. You used tactics that no other species would consider. You showed that you would sacrifice everything rather than surrender. The Council decided it was safer to maintain peaceful relations than risk another conflict. Doyen was quiet for a moment. Then he started laughing. It was genuine laughter, not mocking or bitter. Just surprised amusement. We're on a galactic threat list and nobody told us. That's amazing. Wait until I tell my family about this. My daughter will think it's hilarious. Thalvin didn't understand. You're not angry? Angry? Why would I be angry? You're treating us well. You trade fairly with us. You invite us to council sessions. You just happen to have a secret file that says, "Don't make the humans mad," and honestly, that's pretty reasonable advice. Hana knocked on the door and entered. She had apparently been listening to the conversation. "So we're space boogeymens?" she asked. "That's what this is about?" "Apparently," Doyen said. "The council is afraid we'll go crazy if provoked." "Well, they're not wrong. We kinda did go crazy when the Krillians attacked. That was different. They were trying to exterminate us, exactly. So the council's policy makes sense. Don't try to exterminate humans and humans won't get scary. Simple." Thalvin watched this exchange with confusion. Humans had just learned they were classified as apex predators and they were joking about it. Where was the outrage? The demands for apology? "Ambassador, do you understand what the Apex Archive represents? Only 13 species in the entire galaxy carry that classification. Most of them are extinct or unreachable. You're one of only 3 active apex species." Doyen nodded. "I understand. But here's the thing, Thalvin. We don't want to be scary. We just want to explore space, make friends, and trade interesting things. The fact that we can be scary if needed, that's just insurance." Word of the classified broadcast spread through the station rapidly. By the end of the day, every species on the hub knew about humanity's apex status. The reactions varied dramatically. Some species started avoiding human sections. Others became more respectful. A few tried to test boundaries, asking humans about their secret weapons. Thalvin watched it all from the archives. He monitored communications and observed behavior changes. Most interesting was a conversation between Hana and a young Telvian scientist named Jamin. Jamin was a human who had been raised on the station. He was barely 20 years old and had never been to Earth. He worked in the physics research department. "So we're apex predators?" Jamin asked Hana in the station cafeteria. "That's wild. I've never even been in a fight." "It's not about being violent," Hana explained. "It's about what we'll do when pushed to the edge. Most species surrender when facing extinction. We don't, we fight harder. But why? Because surrendering means trusting your enemy to let you live. History taught us that's a bad bet. So we learn to make sure anyone who threatens us regrets it. It's not aggression, it's survival." A Krillian trader at a nearby table had been listening. He spoke up suddenly. "My grandfather fought at Earth. He was on the supply ship that survived. He told me stories about the battle. He said humans were demons who didn't fear death." Hana turned to him. "We fear death just like everyone else, but we fear extinction more. Your people came to our home and threatened to kill all of us. What did you expect us to do, submit?" "My people have submitted when facing superior force," the Krillian said. "It prevents unnecessary casualties. And then you become slaves to whoever conquered you. No thanks, we'd rather die free than live as servants." The Krillian considered this. That is, a very human perspective. It's a survival perspective. Your ancestors probably thought the same way before they became an empire. They just forgot. Over the next few days, Thalvin observed hundreds of similar conversations. Humans explaining their philosophy, other species trying to understand it. Slowly, the fear began to shift into something else. Not quite respect, but understanding. One incident stood out. A trade dispute between humans and the Vexian collective was escalating toward threats. The Vexian representative told Doyen that they would take the disputed cargo by force if necessary. Doyen's response was calm. "You can try. But before you do, remember that the last species who threatened us with force lost their entire subjugation fleet. We're traders and we prefer peaceful solutions, but we're also survivors. And we remember every lesson we've learned. The choice is yours." The Vexians backed down immediately. The dispute was resolved through negotiation. Counselor Vren called Thalvin to his office again. "Your mistake might have been the best thing that could have happened," Vren said. "The secret was causing stress on the council. We were always worried about humans discovering the classification and feeling betrayed. Now they know and they're not angry. They understand why we did it." "Some species are frightened," Thalvin pointed out. "Good. A little fear prevents stupid decisions. The Vexians learned that this week. So did 3 other species that were considering aggressive expansion near human space. They all suddenly decided to focus on other sectors. So humanity's reputation as apex predators is actually maintaining peace. Exactly. Nobody wants to be the next Krillian Empire. Nobody wants to discover what modern human weapons can do. So everyone is very, very careful to stay on humanity's good side. Thalvin thought about Ambassador Suman's words from 50 years ago. Leave us alone and we'll leave you alone. Be our friends or be our enemies. The choice is yours. The galaxy had chosen friendship. And the secret that was meant to protect everyone had become the foundation of lasting peace. Hana found Thalvin in the archives one evening. She brought him a coffee, a human beverage he'd grown fond of. Hey, librarian, that's what we're calling you now. The guy who accidentally told everyone we're scary. Thalvin accepted the coffee gratefully. I am sorry for the breach of security. Don't be. It's better this way. Everyone knows where they stand. And honestly, it's kind of flattering. We're on the same list as void serpents. That's pretty cool. You're not concerned about how other species perceive you? Hana smiled. Thalvin, we've been the scary species on our own planet for thousands of years. We hunted everything. We survived everything. We climbed to the top of the food chain through stubbornness and adaptation. Being on a galactic threat list? That's just the same thing, bigger scale. She patted his shoulder with one hand. Besides, now nobody will mess with our friends. Anyone who wants to stay on good terms with humans is automatically safer. That's not a bad thing. As Hana left, Thalvin pulled up the Apex archive file one more time. The human entry now had a new notation added by Counselor Vren. Classification status, public knowledge as of 2387. Species response, acceptance with humor. Threat level unchanged. Diplomatic approach, maintain current friendly relations. They are exactly as dangerous as we thought, and exactly as reasonable as we hoped. The warning came from the edge of Council space. A deep space monitoring station detected something impossible. Ships, thousands of them, moving through space like a swarm of insects. Within hours, 3 outer colonies went silent. No distress calls, no evacuation attempts, just silence. Scout ships were sent to investigate. Only one returned. The pilot was a Velthoran named Kenth. He was shaking so badly he could barely speak. They're eating everything, he said. The colonies, the stations, the planets. They consume all organic matter and move on. They're called the Vorash Swarm, and they're heading toward the core systems. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Every species sent representatives. The chamber that usually held calm debates was filled with panic. Counselor Vren stood at the central podium, looking older than Thalvin had ever seen him. The Vorash Swarm is an extra-galactic species, a hive mind that views all other life as food. They have consumed 7 colonies in 3 weeks. Our combined military forces have engaged them twice. Both battles were complete defeats. The holodisplay showed footage from the battles. Council ships firing every weapon they had. The Vorash vessels absorbing the damage and returning fire with biological weapons. Ships melted by acid. Crews infected by spores that turned them into more Vorash. Current projections show the swarm reaching major population centers within 6 months. If we cannot stop them, the Council as we know it will cease to exist. A Krillian military commander spoke up. We need every available warship. Every species must contribute their fleets. This is a fight for survival. We've already done that, Vren said quietly. The combined fleet engaged the Vorash at the Helion system. We lost 60% of our ships. The Vorash lost nothing. They just consumed the wreckage and grew stronger. The chamber fell silent. 60% losses was catastrophic. That represented ships from 30 different species. Ambassador Doyen stood up. What about unconventional weapons? Biological warfare? Nuclear strikes? We tried everything, Vren said. The Vorash adapt within hours. Biological weapons are consumed and analyzed. Nuclear radiation seems to strengthen them. They're unlike anything we've encountered. They don't negotiate. They don't retreat. They just consume. They sound familiar, Doyen said softly. Several representatives turned to look at him. Doyen met their gazes calmly. They sound like what the galaxy thought humans were, an unstoppable force that uses every weapon and doesn't negotiate. Vren nodded slowly. That's why I asked you here, Ambassador. We need help. We need humanity's help, the chamber erupted. Half the representatives supported the idea. The other half protested loudly. Humans are too dangerous. Someone shouted, Humans don't follow the rules of warfare. Another added, Doyen waited for the noise to die down. Then he spoke clearly. You're right. We don't follow your rules. We follow one rule: survive. And right now the Vorash swarm is threatening everyone's survival, including ours. So yes, we'll help. But we need full council support. No restrictions on our methods. No complaints about our tactics. We fight the way we fight. Vren stepped down from the podium and approached Doyen directly. For the first time in council history, a senior counselor bowed to a human. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I ask for humanity's assistance. We offer full membership in the council, access to all our technology, alliance treaties with every member species. We're not asking you to save us. We're asking you to stand with us. Doyen looked at the counselor for a long moment. Then he pulled out his communication device. I need to contact Earth. This isn't a decision I can make alone. The conversation between Doyen and Earth Command lasted 3 hours. It was private, but Thalvin later learned what was discussed. The Earth government was divided. Some wanted to help. Others argued that humanity should focus on defending Earth and let the galaxy deal with its own problems. Admiral Hyon, commander of Earth's defensive fleet, spoke for many when he said, "Why should we risk our people for species that feared us? For a council that put us on a threat list?" But Doyen had an answer. Because it's the right thing to do. Because 50 years ago we fought the Krillians to prove we wouldn't submit to bullies. Now we have a chance to prove we're not bullies ourselves. We can fight. We can survive. But we can also protect. That's what makes us better than the Vorash. A scientist named Jiho, who had been studying the Vorash, added his voice. If the Vorash consume the council species, they'll come for us next. They won't stop. They can't stop. They're a hive mind programmed to consume. Better to fight them now with allies than later alone. The vote was close, but humanity agreed to help. On one condition: complete transparency. No more secret classifications. No more hidden files. True partnership or nothing. The council agreed immediately. Admiral Hyon arrived at the Galactic Hub 2 weeks later with the human fleet. 50 warships. It wasn't much compared to the thousands of council vessels, but the human ships were different. Faster, more maneuverable, built with lessons learned from the Krillian War. Hyon met with the council's military commanders. The meeting was tense. We've studied your battle reports, Hyon said. You're fighting the Vorash like they're a conventional military force. They're not. They're an ecosystem. You need to disrupt the ecosystem. How? A Krillian commander asked. Stop trying to destroy their ships. Start trying to starve them. They need organic matter to grow. Cut off their food supply. Jiho pulled up a tactical display. The Vorash consume colonies to gain mass, but they need time to process the biological material. If we evacuate colonies before they arrive, we deny them resources. If we destroy the colonies ourselves after evacuation, we leave them nothing but rock and metal. You want us to destroy our own worlds? Someone asked in horror. Better empty worlds than feeding the enemy, Hyon said. This is what humans learned fighting on our own planet. Scorched earth tactics. Leave nothing for the enemy. Make every advance cost them. The strategy was radical, but the council was desperate. They agreed. The evacuation of border colonies began immediately. Millions of civilians moved to safer systems. Behind them, human engineering teams destroyed everything organic. Atmosphere processors were shut down. Farms were burned. Cities were collapsed. When the Vorash arrived at the next target colony, they found bare rock. The hive mind adapted quickly. They changed course toward more populated systems. But human scouts tracked their movements. Jiho had been right. The Vorash needed time to consume and process. If they were constantly moving, they couldn't grow. We keep them chasing empty targets, Hyon explained. We evacuate faster than they can move. We make them work for every scrap of organic matter. Eventually, they'll weaken. The strategy worked for 6 weeks. But the Vorash were learning too. They split their swarm. Smaller groups moved faster. Harder to predict. They hit 3 colonies before evacuations could complete. The human response was immediate. Doyen authorized Protocol Scorched Earth. Every human ship carried nuclear weapons. Not as main weapons, but as last resort options. When a colony couldn't be fully evacuated, human ships would position themselves between the Vorash and the civilians. One captain, a woman named Yunji, stayed behind at Station Kepler with 100 civilians still trapped on the lower levels. Her ship was damaged. Her crew was exhausted. The Vorash arrived in overwhelming numbers. Yunji sent one message to the fleet. This is Captain Yunji. Station Kepler cannot be saved. Detonating reactor in 30 seconds. For every human who lived here. For every family that called this place home. The Vorash get nothing but radiation. The station exploded. The blast destroyed 40 Vorash vessels and sterilized the surrounding space. 100 civilians and 200 crew members died. But 5,000 civilians escaped on the last transport. When Admiral Hyan heard the news, he was silent for a long time. Then he issued new orders. Every ship captain has authorization to use terminal protocols. If a position cannot be held, deny it to the enemy. We learned this fighting the Krillians. We remember why it works. The Vorash began to slow their advance. They were adapted to species that tried to save everything. They didn't understand an enemy that would destroy their own assets rather than surrender them. Jiho found the breakthrough. After weeks of studying captured Vorash biosamples, he discovered their weakness. They're not truly a hive mind, he explained to the council. They're a network. Millions of individual organisms connected by a biological signal. If we can jam the signal, they lose coordination. How do we jam a biological signal? Counselor Vren asked. With another biological signal. Something that mimics their communication but introduces chaos. I call it the confusion virus. The concept was simple. Introduce false signals into the Vorash network. Make different parts of the swarm think they're receiving different orders. Turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Human ships began deploying the confusion virus in every engagement. The effects were immediate. Vorash vessels started attacking each other. Formations broke down. The organized swarm became a chaotic mess. The final battle took place at the Nexus system, a major trade hub. The Vorash threw everything they had at it. Thousands of ships, but the defenders were ready. Human ships used hit-and-run tactics. Council vessels used conventional